Hey everyone, Rich Gasaway here. Before I get into today's episode, I want to take a moment to talk about the very soon to be released Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. I am super excited about this. Last week I met with the marketing company and laid out the Academy's launch strategy, pricing, early bird discounts, all the other things that go into rolling out something that's this important. I had no idea how much goes in to doing this, but it's going to be great. The Academy is going to have 13 courses that cover situational awareness from A to Z and everything in between. Nothing's held back. Each of the courses will take, I'm guessing, maybe 30 minutes to complete, and your department training officer can track the participation. There'll be quizzes along the way to verify knowledge is actually being transferred to the learner, and much more. I know there are many departments that cannot, for one reason or another, host a live Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop event. The Academy will make it affordable for every department to get this valuable life-saving content taught by me. Your personnel will be able to take the classes in bite-sized increments, and the whole organization can become proficient in situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. There will be 2 levels of the Academy, a basic level, which will be all the videos, audio content, written content, and quizzes. And then there's going to be a premium version that will include something really cool, a live monthly teleseminar conducted by me where Academy students can call in and ask questions and talk with me live. The idea came from feedback from students from the first version of the Academy. It's a great idea, and I absolutely love the idea of personal discussions with the Academy students. The new Academy will launch in January, but we're going to offer a limited number of deeply discounted early bird pre-sales. So if you want to get in from the start and you want to save about 30-35% off the regular Academy price, then it's time to get on board. For departments with 50 members, that savings could be more than $1,000, and that's pretty significant. If you want to reserve your spot now, just contact me through the SA Matters website and let me know you're interested in the pre-sale discount, and I'll give you all the details and I'll guarantee you a spot. Now, you're making no obligation by sending me the email. You're not signed up till you're signed up. But if you were interested, you could let me know. As I said, I'm going to only offer this deal to a handful of departments as a way of saying thanks for being the early supporters of the new online academy. So if you want to express that interest now and get on the early bird list, go to the SA Matters website and click on the Contact Me tab. Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
This is Division Chief Dan Cannonsville from West Metro Fire Rescue, and you are listening to the SA Matters radio show with Dr. Rich Gasaway. The SA Matters mission is simple. They want to help us see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes.
Hello, and welcome to episode 129 of the Situational Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence environments. The SA Matters mission is simple: to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where I am in town for 2 reasons. The first is to facilitate a roundtable discussion of city staff about situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. The second reason I'm here, which is the primary reason, is I'm delivering the keynote address for the Sioux Falls Fire Department Recruit Academy graduation. This is quite an honor for me and an opportunity to participate in a graduation ceremony really doesn't come along very often for me, so I'm really, really excited about this. Starting in September, the monthly newsletter became a weekly newsletter. The new format is much smaller and quicker to get through. The monthly newsletter contained a lot of material, and I often had people say it's good, but it's hard to get through. So now the newsletter is just weekly, and my goal is that you be able to get through it in about 3 to 5 minutes max. So if you're interested in signing up for the newsletter, go to the SA Matters website, click on the red box on the right side of the homepage. It says membership. It's free. One question I get asked a lot is, when are you going to be in my area, or where are you going to be next? It's really easy to find out because the upcoming events schedule is on the SA Matters website. Just go to the homepage, click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage. It says upcoming event schedule, and that'll give you everything that's on the schedule for the rest of this year, next year, and even after that. So if you're interested in hosting a Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop event yet in 2016, there's a few dates left, or in 2017 for your department or association, just contact me through the SA Matters Contact Us link on the homepage, and we'll get something set up for you. Don't wait. I'm actively booking the 2017 programs now, and even have a few into 2018 already. So if you're thinking about doing something for 2017, swing by the website, click on the Contact Us tab. If you want to save some money, here's a tip about how you can host a program at a reduced cost. I schedule many what I call companion programs. These are programs on adjoining days to other programs. So if you see I'm delivering a program a couple hours from your department and think you might want to tag along as a companion, contact me. You can save as much as 20% off the program cost for being a companion to an existing program. And I do roughly 30 of these companion programs each year, and no one ever complains about saving money on the travel expenses. So I'll call that a win-win. Before we get into today's feature segment, I want to take a moment to discuss the Company Officer Development Institute program that I created all the way back in 2009. Now, we've updated it many times since then, but that's when it was birthed, so to speak. I recently sent out a message about the Company Officer Development Institute on my social media, and I got a lot of interest coming back, and a few puzzled responses, too, based on what I had put out. And I can understand why. You see, this is a 5 days, no PowerPoint. 5 days, no PowerPoint. No book. The program was developed to help company officers with the skills needed to be successful at the company level. My co-facilitator is from Indianapolis Fire Department, Lieutenant Patrick Harper. And we share best practices on leadership, problem solving, conflict resolution, teamwork, motivation, generational issues, discipline, coaching for performance improvement, and more. The program truly is customized to the issues facing those who are in the room that week. That's one of the reasons we can't use PowerPoint. We never know exactly what the content of the class is going to be until we get started. And the second reason we don't use PowerPoint is, well, frankly, I don't believe that people really like to take a class with PowerPoint, let alone a full week of class with PowerPoint. No, that wouldn't work. This is better accomplished using adult-facilitated learning techniques. It's always amazing to me on Monday when we announce that we're going to have this week-long class with no PowerPoint. I can see the confusion, bewilderment in the eyes of the participants, sometimes fear. And then by Friday, the comments are often things like, where did this week go? It seems like we just got started. Yes, when adults are engaged in the process of learning and not just being lectured to off of a PowerPoint slide, learning can be fun. And it sticks. That's the important point. When I'm talking to chief officers about why they might want to host this program, I explain it this way. We're going to teach your company officers the skills they need to keep problems out of your office, how to prevent and resolve problems at their level, the company level, and keep them from getting to your level, the chief's level. In August, we completed the 29th offering of the week-long version of the Company Officer Development Institute. We also offer shorter versions for departments that can't do a full week, and weekend versions for volunteer departments. If this sounds like something you might be interested in, have your chief or training officer visit the SA Matters website and click on the Contact Us link, and we'll get the discussion going. It really is that easy. Okay, in today's feature segment, I'm going to interview Beaver Dam, Wisconsin Fire Chief Alan Mannel about a near-miss event that he was involved in. However, this event was not while he was serving as a firefighter, but rather while he was serving as a police officer. And he was involved in an incident where he shot an assailant. I'm going to get right into the feature segment, but when I'm done, stick around. I'm going to announce where the upcoming SA Matters tour stops are. So let's jump right in now with our feature segment with then police officer, now fire chief, Alan Mannel.
Like many people, it seems, in our professions, I couldn't decide what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I was a full-time firefighter in a neighboring community and a part-time police officer in the village of Crete, Illinois. It's a small suburb in our far south suburb of Chicago, and it's right on the rural-urban interface, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Cornfields to the south. On a clear day, you could see the Willis/Sears Tower to the north. So it's pretty much a bedroom community.
What was the population at that time?
Probably about 6,000.
Okay.
With the village of Crete proper.
Okay.
And some unincorporated areas in between, and then other suburbs to the north and the west, and a little further northeast there were other suburbs pretty much touching each other.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked in the afternoon shift. There were usually 3 cars on the afternoon shift, 1 or 2 full-time and a part-time, or 1 full-time and 2 part-time. But there were pretty much always 3 cars on duty on the afternoon shift. I believe it was a Saturday night. It was very hot. I remember my wife probably doesn't know this until now. I didn't have my bulletproof vest on, and I was going to put it on after dinner because it was probably 9,500 degrees. I wasn't planning on getting shot that night anyway, so.
Funny how that works out, huh?
Yeah. Best laid plans, right?
Yeah, right.
So, myself and one of the sergeants, Andy, a real good guy, we were in the station, and the radio crackled with an ISPERN dispatch. ISPERN is I think it stands for Illinois State Police Emergency Radio Network. That's where anybody that has anything big or be on the lookouts or attempt to locate. If anybody has anything big, it goes over the ISPERN radio. And a park force car was involved in a shooting with a motorist that got into a traffic altercation with an older couple, fired a couple shots at their vehicle, and the older couple flagged down a police officer at the next intersection, and the police officer engaged the bad guy, and several shots were exchanged, and the pickup truck that the offender was driving went southbound on Western Avenue at not a very high rate of speed. They said they were doing the speed limit. So we were south and east of that location, of course, being 23 years old and a couple of years on the job, you couldn't get enough of it. And I said, yeah, you want me to head that way? And we both figured it'd be over and done with by the time, I got to that neighborhood. But lo and behold, they were driving pretty slow. And as we approached what would be the next controlled intersection, there was a Illinois State Police squad, a Park 4 South car, and myself. We pretty much hit the intersection at the same time. I think I was the second one to head north, but it was a hilly area, and we saw the offending vehicle southbound heading towards us, and a part of the Park Forest police car behind him. And he apparently saw us coming. We saw him, and he went to the shoulder of the road and stopped in the ditch. And there was civilian traffic in the area. Two cars pulled over, pretty much right across the street from the bad guy. It was a 2-lane road with shoulder on both sides, and there was the Forest South Animal Hospital was on the east side of the road with a an open parking area. Now, the Park 4 South car, the state car, and myself, we pulled into the animal hospital parking area, and there were shots being exchanged between the Park Forest car to the north and the offender. And the two cars that had pulled over were full of people, and they were watching this exchange of gunfire like it was a tennis game.
Oh, my. Like they were watching TV.
Yeah. We were always told that, the general public is slow to react to dangerous situations like that, and by God, it was true that day. So knowing that somebody was going to get shot, or fearing that somebody was going to get shot, we made our way over to it would be the furthest south carload of civilians, and we're hollering at them to keep their heads low. As we were running towards the car, which seemed to take forever. It was like my feet were made of lead, and I know I was moving pretty fast. Mm-hmm. It just seemed that I couldn't move fast enough, and I had the shotgun, and I think I heard a bullet go by my head, and the other officer said that he fired at us. But it just seemed like I heard something, and I don't know if it's possible to hear a bullet or not, but it sounded like something whizzed, by my head. And we got up to the car, told them to keep their heads down. Again, shots are going back and forth.
Let me pause for a second. Are you at any point up to this point? Are you thinking, "Wow, I really wish I had put my vest on"?
No, it hit me pretty much after.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wondered if there was some point along the way there, as you're approaching this situation, that you're thinking, this would have been a really good time to have my vest on. But so it comes to you later. So go ahead and keep the story going.
So we got to the first car, which was pretty much right across the street from the offending vehicle. And the guy that was shooting at the Park Forest and another Park Forest South car ended up on the north end somehow too. So I know there were 3 officers on the north exchanging gunfire with the guy in the pickup truck. So I took a position over the hood, or near the hood, using the tire and the engine block as cover. And the shooting pretty much stopped for a few seconds, and one of the guys on the north, kind of using bushes and trees, and I think there was some road construction going on too, so there was those concrete drain tile. He was using those for cover. He kind of walked up, not knowing if the subject had been hit and was down. But he got close enough to the car to kind of peek up and over, and the guy was reloading his gun. So he took off running and yelled to everybody, "He's reloading." With that, he stuck the gun. Well, let me back up a little bit. He was, at some point, he was trying to move the vehicle, and the vehicle was moving to try to get up and out of the ditch. And I fired my first shot at the tires trying to disable the vehicle, and he kept revving up the engine and trying to get the vehicle up and out of the ditch. Well, I fired again, and at the time we carried deer slugs and double-aught buck in the shotguns. So the second round out of the shotgun was a deer slug, and it did something to the motor anyway. The guy stopped, the engine shut off, and the guy couldn't move the vehicle anymore. So that was about the time that the Park Forest cop got up next to the car and saw the guy reloading. So with the vehicle disabled, he reloaded, stuck the gun out the window. I could see the top of his head, and I started yelling at him, drop the gun, throw the gun out the window. And with that, he looked at me, lowered the gun, and that's when I fired the third shot, which was a loaded double-aught. Several of the pellets hit the driver's door. I believe that it hit, at the time I believed that it hit the top of his head and maybe his hand. Well, he fell back into the vehicle, and with all this going on, I noticed that the gunshots didn't seem very loud. Wasn't really paying attention to it until a couple of seconds later, which it seemed like an eternity. The guy finally threw the gun out the window, And when the gun hit the ground, it sounded like a toy hitting the ground, like a cheap piece of plastic. And it's like, oh boy, I just shot a guy over a cap gun. Well, the park forest cops, the guys from the north.
Well, hold on. So when it hit the ground, it sounded like plastic, and you're thinking, I just shot this guy over a cap gun. But this guy had been shooting it at you guys for some time now, right? But that's what went through your mind at that moment?
Yep. It was like a cheap plastic toy hitting the ground.
But you knew he'd been shooting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It's one of them things that just it's one of them things that you saw and you heard, and it didn't make sense, and it's like, oh, this is not right.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So with the gun out the window, I maintained cover on the car, and the guys went up to the car, and he was bleeding. He was down. They drug him out of the car, and we called for EMS right away. And at the time, being a paramedic, it was having to change gears and then render first aid to somebody who had just tried to kill you. That was a little awkward, but we had to clear his airway. He was bleeding pretty good, and cleared his airway, and didn't really have any equipment with me, but EMS was just right around the corner. I think they were pretty Johnny on the spot. They were only a few blocks away, so they got there and took care of the guy, and we're doing our the crime scenes stuff, and there was a tavern down the street that one of my friends, another police officer, was in, and of course he was on the scene. He was kind of coaching me, where's all your spent brass? We've got to collect that, and which was good, because you're not thinking straight. At the time, I used to smoke, and I think I had 2 cigarettes burning at the same time, not knowing it. But it was pretty hectic after. But you got that big adrenaline dump, and when it's all over, you kind of collect your thoughts, and everybody was pretty good. People, the aftermath. I guess some good lessons to learn is if you ever have any coworkers involved in similar situations, everybody gave you the Monday morning quarterback. Again, this was 1982. Everybody thinks Chicago is the wild, wild west, and in some respects it may be today. But back in the day, the south suburbs of Chicago, this kind of thing didn't happen every day. It was very rare that there were any shootings, let alone officer-involved shootings, and so people, coworkers really didn't know how to react, and a lot of people said they were trying to be supportive, but saying the wrong things. At the time, I was a pretty good shot, and it's like, you just winged the guy. You didn't really want to shoot him. It's like, yeah, I did. He was shooting at people. We did what we had to do. Some people said, you should have transitioned to your handgun. You were so close. And at the time, I could put 50 bullets through the same hole. I had a lot of friends. We did a lot of practice shooting, target practice, and a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking, and people.
These were your peers that were saying this stuff?
Yeah, and most of it wasn't bad. There were a few cheap shots. A cop from a neighboring community said, "Yeah, I heard there was just a lot of people shooting to be shooting." And it's like, well, yeah.
And he wasn't there.
No, not there at all. There was a couple of malicious things, but most of the people were just hey, are you? How was it? Because I don't think we even knew any other police officers that had ever discharged their gun in the line of duty, and here we got a shootout at the OK Corral in the middle of the evening in the middle of the suburbs. So it was something that didn't happen very often, and I don't hold any malice against them or ill will, but one of the true good things, once I was exonerated and everything, and the village trustee that was in charge of police and fire activities, he had been a part-time police officer many years before, and he come up to me and said, I'm really glad you're okay. I'm glad you weren't hurt. It must have been awful. You did a great job. Thank you. Very supportive, non-judgmental. Sometimes you expect the worst out of the politicians, but his name was Ed. He's a great guy, and he stood up and was very supportive. But I might have been a little thin-skinned at the time, listening to some of the Monday morning quarterbacking. But
well, when something like that happens, I'm guessing you're even doing a fair amount of self-reflection of what I coulda, shoulda, woulda done just within your own mind, but then to hear those kind of comments coming from others, I would guess maybe even instills a little bit of self-doubt, if only momentarily, in your own mind, right?
Sure. Yeah, no doubt. I didn't have much problem with what happened, and you go through the basic police training and the magazine articles and books and all the post-traumatic stress things. Some police officers, flashbacks, and not being able to sleep, all that kind of stuff, and I really wasn't having much problem with it. It happened. I did what I had to do. I probably wouldn't do things much different other than putting my vest on. Wouldn't do things much different than I did. But and I think that was bothering me. So the city manager of the town I was a firefighter in, he was kind of a jerk, but his wife was a very nice person, and she was a psychologist. So she had reached out to me and said, if you ever want to talk about it. And so I took her up on it, and we met twice, week or two apart, and pretty much laid everything on the table. And the second meeting, she goes, I think this is going to be pretty short. Okay, what do you think? And she goes, I think what is bothering you is that you think things are supposed to be bothering you, and they're not. You did what you had to do. At the end of the day, all the civilians and police officers went home. The bad guy went to the hospital and then to jail. So, everything happened like it was supposed to. And what's bothering you is that nothing is bothering you. And when she said that, it was like, wow. And I think you hit the nail on the head.
Wow.
Yeah. So that worked out well. Again, the peers, everybody, Monday morning quarterbacking you, and but nothing I couldn't live with.
Were you getting any of that from the people who were actually there?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah, not at all.
Now, I want to circle back because you had said during the shootout that the shots didn't seem very loud. So tell me a little bit more about that.
It probably wasn't until we went to the range the next time, or I went to practice, whatever. It's like, this stuff is really loud. And I don't remember any loud noises the day of the shooting. And then I started thinking about that, and on top of the gun, the bad guy's gun hitting the ground. And then I started looking into it more and discovered about the auditory exclusion thing. Mm-hmm. And, that I just couldn't seem to move fast enough, and, things seemed like they were taking a long time. And, if I heard what I thought I heard, if it's possible to hear a bullet, I don't know. I never pursued that much, but it just sounded like a bumblebee going past my head, and it's like, well, I think that was a bullet,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, some of the things, it seemed like I had time to think about stuff, and that was one of the other things. I remember them talking in police, the firearms classes, that chances are if you're thinking about pulling the trigger, you probably don't have to. And I could have taken my time shooting the tire out, and in fact I did. I didn't want to start throwing lead around unnecessary. So, shooting the tire out, and I remember them saying, don't shoot at a vehicle trying to disable it, because you're not going to. But it was like, you're kind of helpless, you're in the middle of this shootout, and it's like, okay, well, throw one at the engine, and whatever it hit, it did it. So it's like, and I had time to think about those shots. when the guy started lowering the gun out the window, at me, as game over. You got to do what you got to do at that point. But it just seemed like there was actually time to think, but not overthink. It's like, okay, maybe I can take this tire out. One more round at the engine might stop it, because I didn't want this to turn into another chase, rolling gun battle.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think there was actually gunshots and other sounds that you didn't hear? In other words, was there any sirens that were maybe inadvertently left on one of the cars, or in other incoming vehicle, any other incoming police cars that maybe you didn't hear, or it appeared to sound muffled or anything like that? Because I'm interested in this auditory exclusion, and I'll tie back and explain to you why here in a minute.
I would say that there probably were, with the number of officers that were on the scene and the number of shots that were fired, I don't recall it sounding like a war zone. I mean, you could hear the pop, here and there. You knew it was happening, but I'm thinking it was probably 10 or 15 shots fired, and I didn't remember there being that many. But again, I wasn't counting. In fact, the guy that was at the bar, a friend of mine, police officer, he asked me initially, how many shots did you fire? I said, I fired 2. So he's going around looking for the brass, and he comes back, and he'd had a few drinks. So he goes, Al, how many shots did you fire? I said, 2. And he had his hand behind his back, and he says, how many shots did you fire? I said, 2. And he pulls out his hand, and he had 3 shotgun shell casings on his finger, and it's like, oh yeah, I did shoot 3. So yeah, gathering our thoughts. I said, yeah, okay, 1 tire, 1 the engine, 1 at the back. Yeah, okay, yeah, 3. 1, 2, 3. Pretty simple math, but the definite muffled thing. It was like nothing was. The gunshots weren't startling. The ones I do remember happening weren't startling. I mean, I was shooting a shotgun. I think the other officers, the street a little bit, maybe 50, 100 feet away, whatever the distance was, they were shooting .357 Magnums, and those are pretty loud weapons. So nothing was startling. Mm-hmm. I don't remember any sirens, but now that you mention it, yeah, I'm sure that there were.
Mm-hmm. And so the muffled shots were even your own?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, not just the other guns being shot, but, I mean, when you shoot it, anybody that's shot a shotgun knows that they're pretty darn loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it just sounded kind of muffled. Do you remember there being any, as you were experiencing this muffledness, do you remember there being any radio traffic that sounded muffled as well, or diminished, or even kind of hard to understand? In other words, you might have heard something that sounded like a radio, but you couldn't make sense out of what it was.
I don't remember any radio traffic, now that you mention it.
Interesting. Yeah. You think there was, with other units coming in and things like that?
Sure. Yeah, just having been on similar calls after the fact, yeah, I'm thinking that everybody would have been talking on the radio.
Mm-hmm. And up to prior to when you were responding to the call, there was radio traffic. And initially when you got on the scene, there was probably radio traffic. So then when you maneuvered your way into this high-stress situation, it would almost seem implausible that all the radio traffic just suddenly stopped. It was probably still going on, but you just don't remember hearing any of that.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember any radio traffic.
That's interesting. I'm not sure if you're aware of the fact that in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was an officer involved shooting a few weeks back, and that officer is claiming, in part, through her attorney, that she suffered from auditory exclusion, that there were things going on at that incident scene that she did not hear, and she is claiming that the other police cars coming in, even though there's a recorded tape that has the sirens of those vehicles arriving on the scene, she's claiming she didn't hear those sirens. She's claiming that she didn't hear the other officer say taser, 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 and even though it's captured on the tape, she's saying, I didn't hear that, and that she had suffered from auditory exclusion. And then the Fox 23 channel in Tulsa had contacted me and said, we found you on the internet and you've written about this. What is auditory exclusion? How does it happen? Is it real or is it a trumped up explanation? And I did the interview and I wasn't really doing it to provide any defense for either side. I don't want to get involved in either side of that, but I was just asked to explain what is auditory exclusion, is it real, and does it really happen? And as a first responder, that you've been on incidents like this one that you're describing where your ability to hear under stress is diminished. If not, at times, think about your whole fire service career, at times when you've been inside of a burning building with a radio and you didn't hear radio traffic because you were in the stress of the firefight, So having you say something about, how auditory exclusion was a contributor to the things that were happening to you on this scene kind of has a direct, as an example, what could have been happening to that officer in Tulsa as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, as you have had a lot of time to think about this, what are your takeaways? Anything you would share as a lesson learned for fire, EMS, or police, or anything you'd have done differently as you reflect back, or anything you could say to them about what to expect if something like this might happen to them?
Well, just know that it occurs. I think might go a long way to have people know what to expect. I don't know if it's possible to force yourself to try to listen and know that what you perceive as being slow motion probably really isn't. You're moving right along, and I've heard other people saying, it had been in auto accidents, things kind of went into slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
When we were running up to the car, it's like it just seemed like I couldn't run fast enough, and it's like, come on, you're being shot at. But we were moving right along. I think just knowing that those type of responses, that your body's experiencing are out there.
Now, you didn't have your vest on. Is that... I know, and it was hot. Did you routinely on hot days just take your vest off because it was a hot day?
Yep.
And you had said something earlier where you said, and I wrote it down, quoting, I wasn't planning on getting shot that night.
That was half tongue in cheek, but yeah, you're you're the south suburbs of Chicago, where in 1982, where you could go the whole shift and you might get a dog call or a loud music complaint. Or I have to tell you though, after that incident, I wore it religiously.
Yeah.
The saying that it's better to be hot than shot, and
yeah,
there's a lot of truth to that. So
yeah, and people will say you'd be surprised what you'll change after you've almost been killed.
Yeah.
People say that about seatbelt use and helmet use and all kinds of stuff. Now, there were times when you wore this vest, right? It didn't just sit on the seat of your car or in the trunk of your car. You would actually wear it at times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
like I said, it was after dinner I was going to put it on. It was the type that you wore under the shirt, so you had to change out and put it on. But later on in my law enforcement days, we had the vests that had the carrier that resembles a uniform shirt, so you could loosen the straps when you're in the station doing a report or whatever and cool off a little bit. But yeah, I wore it religiously after.
And the other officers who were at that scene, did you know whether they had vests on or not?
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Okay. Would you say, I don't want to put the words in your mouth, but I'll give you the chance to say it if you think so. Was complacency a factor in not wearing the vest?
Yeah, I would say it was. You just didn't think it was going to happen.
Yeah. Or that things like that even happen at all ever in that little sleepy town.
Right. Yeah, we'd get the occasional bar fight or stuff when the sun went down, and that was my foolish rationale for not wearing it. Had one other shooting call in that town, and it ended up being a homicide-suicide. It was mid-morning, so you just never know. So, being young and invincible, you think you're going to live forever, and engaged to be married at the time, and you started thinking about stuff, and you're not as invincible as you thought you were. And like I said, I wore it religiously after that. It's like, that was not such a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Now, you had said right at the top of the podcast that, if I understood what you said right, that maybe your wife didn't know this?
I don't know if we've ever discussed it.
Yeah, you do. You better hope she doesn't listen to this podcast. You might not want to let her know that it's out there. But that's not surprising to me because of the number of firefighters that I've interviewed, and they've had very close calls. And then I'll say, what'd you go home and tell your family after that happened? And how many of them will say, I never talked to them about it. I never had that discussion. That I never let them know how close I came. And I don't know if they're trying to protect their family, or they're embarrassed that they got themselves into the situation to begin with. But how many of them just never revealed it to their loved ones that they came so close to having such a tragic outcome. I guess maybe they didn't want to worry them about it or whatever it be.
That's exactly what it is. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. All right.
About all the silly dumb things I do, I don't think I was worried about being embarrassed about it. So. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on the show and sharing this experience. I know when we met and you were kind of giving me the summary version of that, I said, "Wow, I really like to have you on and do a podcast about this." And I've had a few other incidences where someone was shot and actually shot and one of them was shot in the face, and he come on and did a podcast show on it. So as soon as you told me about this, I thought this make a great episode. So thanks for coming along and doing that. Thank you, Fire Chief Alan Mannel, for sharing the details of your near-miss event and the lessons you learned from it. I don't think anyone ever wants to be in a position to have to shoot another person, and the stress of that decision must be incredible. If you've experienced or witnessed a near miss and would like to have a platform to share your lessons learned with others, please contact me by visiting the assamatters.com website and clicking on the Contact Us link on the top of the homepage. Think about it for a moment. The lessons learned from your near miss event could save the life of another first responder. That's pretty powerful. If you want to share your experiences, contact me. Okay, as I always do, I want to take a moment to thank the departments and the organizations that have hosted some of the recent Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop events. I do this to show my appreciation to those organizations that have put forth the effort to organize, advertise, and fund great training experiences for their members and others in their region. Your effort to bring this valuable and powerful training on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making to your department and others is greatly appreciated. Recent tour stops included the Wisconsin Fire Chiefs Education Association Conference in La Crosse, Wisconsin, the International Association of Fire Chiefs Officer Development Program in Cincinnati, where I did 2 programs, Training for Failure and Flawed Situational Awareness, the Welcome Fire Department in Fairmont, Minnesota. The Welcome program was sponsored in part by our podcast sponsor, Midwest Fire. This program was funded also by a grant from the Minnesota Board of Fire Training and Education. Thank you to the board for your continued support of my mission to improve firefighter safety in Minnesota. And of course, where I am now at the Sioux Falls Fire Department for the Situational Awareness Roundtable, and the Keynote address for the Recruit Academy class. By the time this episode airs, I will have also completed a program for the Howard Fire Department in Howard, South Dakota. And that program was also sponsored in part by this podcast sponsor, Midwest Fire. So thank you, Midwest, for that. After the Howard program, I'm going to take a couple of weeks off of being on the road to prepare the launch of the Situational Awareness Academy. And then I'll be back at it October 17th. I'll be at the Montana Association of Public Safety Communications Officials Conference in Great Falls, Montana. 2 programs there, one for telecommunicators called Do You See What I Hear, a situational awareness program for them. And then in the afternoon, a leadership program called Leaders Toolbox. October 19th at Firehouse Expo in Nashville, a full day of situational awareness on that day. October 28th, the North Dakota Hazmat Conference in Bismarck, North Dakota, doing 3 programs there. October 31, the Miami Valley Risk Management Association in Centerville, Ohio. October 8th, the Davenport Fire Department in Davenport, Iowa. November 13th, the International Association of Fire Chiefs Volunteer and Combination Officer Section Symposium in the Sun in Clearwater Beach, Florida, where I'm not doing a situational awareness program, but I'm going to be doing one called Climbing Down the Ladder of Success, Preparing for Your Departure from the Fire Service. November 17th, the International Association of Fire Chiefs Officer Development Program in Durham, North Carolina. And then November 30th to December 4th, the Scott Township Fire Department in Evansville, Indiana, is hosting the 5-day Company Officer Development Institute. This one, though, runs evenings, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then full days, Saturday and Sunday. Thanks so much for all the program hosts, and here's hoping there'll be a tour stop near you and we'll get a chance to meet up in person. While delivering some programs in southwest Minnesota earlier this year, I had an opportunity to stop by and visit my awesome, amazing, totally rad sponsor, Midwest Fire. They make all poly fire apparatus, and it's changing the industry. You seriously need to check them out, MidwestFire.com. Anyhow, I got a chance to sit down and talk to a few of their employees about what separates Midwest Fire from their competitors. And here I got a chance to ask account executive Dalton Lingbeck about their all-poly design of the Midwest Fire trucks. So let's listen into what he had to say. Okay, Dalton, I see in the advertisements that one of the things that differentiates Midwest Fire from their competitors is this all-poly design. So what does that mean, all poly? Describe that for me.
Yeah, well, poly is actually pretty common in the industry. Poly tanks are seen inside bodies all over. Manufacturers do them all the time. They've started around the 80s, I believe. But all poly means that our tank and body is all poly integrated. It's one big superstructure. You're not sliding a tank inside of a body. You're not sliding a tank anywhere. It's actually one big built body that we do, and it's made of 3/4 inch copolymer. It's extremely durable, and it's industrial grade, and it's the kind of poly you can beat the crap out of.
Okay, well, I'm a little bit of a skeptic there, because you say that poly is durable, and I own a lot of things that are plastic. In fact, I was just at home last week, and we had this appliance that had plastic parts on it, and I accidentally dropped it on the floor, and it didn't shatter, but it just cracked so easy, and I only dropped it, a couple of feet. So I'm a skeptic. When you say poly is durable, I think of poly or plastic as something that isn't durable, that's going to crack easy or dent easy. So you got to convince me on this one.
Well, yeah, trucks and shoes definitely come up with poly. But let me grab down here something really quick. As you can probably see on the screen right now, this is a piece of poly that we use. It is the same type of material, the same thickness. It's 3/4 inch. And what you might notice on here is that it has bullet holes. So basically, if you trust a bulletproof vest to take bullet holes, when they first tested it, they wanted to shoot holes through it and see if it worked. And you couldn't shoot holes through it. So what did? We did the same exact thing. We wanted to shoot holes in the theory that poly wasn't durable and poly wasn't reliable. And we tried to shoot holes through it, but you can see right here, the bullets actually could not go through and there's actually a bullet stuck in the bottom of this one because it won't get all the way through. Now, truth be told, there was one weapon that did go through this piece of poly, and it was a 30-06 high caliber rifle. It did go through, but that's a 30-06 high caliber rifle.
So it was a 45 caliber on the other side?
Yep.
And so what I'm looking at is essentially there's marks on the poly where the bullets hit, but as you show me the backside, it didn't go all the way through.
No, yeah, and the backside doesn't even have any dents in the backside.
Huh.
Actually, when we were doing this test video, one of the bullets, I think it was on the 380, actually bounced off back towards the person that shot the piece of poly. So no, the bullets did not go through. They actually either stuck in there or they bounced off.
Okay.
That's how strong this stuff actually is.
All right, so there you have it, right from the horse's mouth, shooting holes, literally, in the concept that poly is not a durable product on which to build a fire truck. So if you're interested in learning more, check them out at MidwestFire.com. Thank you to Midwest Fire President Sarah Atchison and all your staff for your awesome commitment to improving first responder safety. I sincerely appreciate your support of my mission. If you're interested in seeing all the locations of the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stops, just head over to the SA Matters website and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Upcoming Events Schedule. The schedule is always changing, so check back often because we just never know when I'm going to add something new as new programs come along. I want to take a moment to share a piece of feedback that I received on the iTunes in the iTunes store. And I don't share this to brag, but just to say thanks to the people who have taken time to go over to iTunes and give the show a rating or review. This comes from Aisling Flux, AIASLINGFLUX. It says, this series is a must for any fire officer. I heard Dr. Gassaway speak yesterday, and he is the most functional PhD I have ever met. Usually these guys educate themselves into oblivion, but this guy rocks. He makes so much sense. The number one goal of any fire officer should be to send their people home and be whole in the morning. Follow this advice. Truly listen and learn. Thank you so much for that feedback. I really do appreciate that. If you want to send me some feedback, I'd love to hear from you. Just go over to the SA Matters website, click on the Contact Us link, or shoot me a message on any of the social media channels that I'm on. If you'd like to learn more about programs that they were talking about, like that one, then you can just visit the SA Matters website and look at the upcoming events. All right, I got a big favor to ask. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while and you like it, help me out. Go to iTunes and give it a rating and a review like this person did. It's not terribly hard. I need some mutual aid, seriously. Step up, help me out. To give you some perspective, this is the 129th weekly episode of the podcast. The show's been running almost 2.5 years, and I've never missed one single Tuesday from the beginning. Every Tuesday, a new episode. There have been over 150,000 downloads of the episode so far, and as of today on iTunes, there's 29 ratings. 29. They're all 5-star. I'm thankful for that. And 19 reviews of the show. On Stitcher, 1 rating, 1 review. That's like getting a gut punch. Help me get my win back. Take a minute, go over, give the show a rating and a review. It really does motivate me to want to work harder for you. If you want to give me suggestions about how to improve the show, just shoot me an email. Just go to the website, click on the Contact Us link. That sends me an email. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. The red box on the right side of the homepage. If you're already a subscriber, then consider asking someone else that you know to subscribe. Your reviews and comments really do inspire me. Okay, if you're not a member of the SA Matters community of learners, as I said, please consider joining. The membership is free. I'll send you a special report that I've created called 25 Best Practices for Improving First Responder Safety when you join. Just the easiest, click the red box on the right side of the homepage. If you want to get connected on social media, you can follow @RichGasaway or @SA Matters on Twitter. If you follow both, you're going to get some of the same tweets twice, so I'd suggest just following one or the other. The SA Matters community is about 17,000 followers, so thanks to everybody who's following me and supporting my mission there. On LinkedIn, you can search for Rich Gasaway. If you want to watch some videos, I have a YouTube channel. SA Matters TV is the YouTube channel. You might be wondering, why so many platforms? The blog, the podcast, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, the online academy, live events, books, videos. Because I know that not every first responder consumes their content the same way on the same platform. And I'm just trying to reach you on whatever platform you prefer most. Well, that's it. Episode 129 is complete. Thank you to my guest, Beaver Dam Fire and Rescue Chief Alan Mannel. Thank you to our podcast sponsor, Midwest Fire, and thanks to all of our live event hosts, and especially thank you, our listeners, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of my mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gasaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gasaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgasaway.com.